Is the honeymoon phase over? With Jordan Love the second, he signs a new contract. 68% of you so far say once he gets paid, the honeymoon phase is over. And I think basically the second he gets that deal, fair or unfair, it sets the expectation at a bare minimum he better win an MVP in that contract.
An MVP?
With that contract, if he's going to go over Joe Burrow.
Would you expect do you think the Jacksonville Jaguars are expecting Trevor Lawrence to win an MVP?
I think that's a fair expectation. You're paying that kind of money. You should be looking for.
I feel like you're looking for.
Now, if you finish second, whatever. But I mean, you need to have an MVP caliber season. You need to be a true.
Okay, I can give you that.
Don't you think for any of the top 5 quarterbacks, you're probably expecting that expectation?
I mean, yes and no. Yes and no. Like at the end of the day, Jim talked about it all the time. Like it doesn't matter if your quarterback wins MVPs and you lose in the playoffs, like Aaron Rodgers. Like we had 2 MVP seasons, and one of them was electric. Like there was what year was it? 19, where Aaron Rodgers was hands down like almost got every vote for the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't get us anywhere.
Yeah, but for this, in this case, these young QBs, like the MVP makes you feel better. Not saying you don't want to win.
True, but at the end of the day, it's about getting as far as you can in the playoffs and making a Super Bowl. So
right.
I would say if as a Packer fan, that kind of money to me says Super Bowl appearance.
Is it
if you don't make a MVP because you're a team guy and the ball's spread around and you did your job and you did like what was necessary to get where you needed to go, but might not be flashy, which we know is a way some quarterbacks do it in the NFL. You don't have to be flashy to get stuff done.
Who gets to the Super Bowl?
Tom Brady's a great example.
But he won MVPs.
He won a lot of Super Bowl MVPs, but I don't think what he won. And again, he won 2, but a lot of his Super Bowl runs weren't MVP seasons.
5-time MVP.
He won 5 MVPs or Super Bowl MVPs.
Oh, sorry. 7 Super Bowl victories. Name the game's 5-time MVPs. I'll see here how many total MVPs he has.
Keep looking at it. I know he has a lot of Super Bowl MVPs, and he deserves it. But I'm just saying, like...
3 times.
He had 3?
Yep.
And
Rodgers had 3?
And he was the first
Now, granted,
ever...
he's got 7 Super Bowls, so I'm saying, like...
He was the first ever to get all the votes, too.
It's not necessarily a prerequisite to be an MVP to make it to the Super Bowl. It doesn't hurt.
But... everyone.
Super Bowl is at the end of the day. That's all I'm looking for.
Okay,
I don't need an MVP season out of Jordan Love if the Packers make a Super Bowl.
See, but Jim,
at the same time, everyone. Sorry,
hasn't that always been your criticism of Aaron Rodgers? Was always like, yes, he was an MVP, but what did that get you? That didn't get you Super Bowls. You were still losing in the playoffs. You were still losing in that NFC Championship.
This is his first contract. My point is the flip side. Brock Purdy. Everyone says, "Oh, he's not that good." He played in the Super Bowl last year. So my point is, you make that money. We'll put it like this. You better be in the MVP conversation. I was being nice. If we want to put him to the Super Bowl standard, it is harder to get to a Super Bowl and win one or even get to one than it is to win an MVP. So that's why I'm putting it at MVP. Because
that
Super
kind of
Bowl,
money, I'm thinking...
you have to have the whole team around you.
Mm-hmm.
We had this conversation off there about Justin Herbert. I'm sorry, Justin Herbert is so much better than his record. You watch him play football, you know he's damn good at football. He is probably platinum tier quarterback. He just needs a better defense. And so he was playing with horrendous coaching. I mean, look at some of his coaches. Look at Tua and the jump he made when Mike McDaniel was brought in. Look at Trevor Lawrence and the jump he was made going from Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson. I think Justin Herbert also had a pretty similar horrible coach situation. He was already good. He's going to make a massive jump. So to me, the Super Bowl at this point, this early in Jordan Love's career, I was being kind by going MVP because I think it's easier to win an MVP or be top 2 in the MVP than it is to go to a Super Bowl.
Do you think there's almost levels to it and I know we always talk about Pro Bowls, they don't mean anything, right? But some contracts have incentives that if you make a Pro Bowl, exactly what his contract had last year, that do you think there's almost levels to it, stairs in a way of, okay, he makes Pro Bowl, then he makes an MVP, then a Super Bowl? Like, is that almost more fair to him?
I mean, I think it's fair to expect progression. So, like, yeah, kind of in that sense, but not necessarily, like, obviously in that order. You could certainly win the Super Bowl this season and never get back.
I think as you talk about it,
Rodgers, though, right? Rodgers was he got a contract a year or two later, got a Super Bowl, and never got back.
No salary cap that year. So he doesn't count when you talk about quarterbacks getting paid a percentage of their salary. There was no salary cap.
And I wasn't even like
I just wanted to
counting
put that
it
out
towards
there,
a cap or anything. I was just saying, like, in general, Rodgers, you could say he started hot and cooled off a little bit and got hot again, but never was able to get over that hump in the playoffs. To me, Jordan Love could win the MVP the next 5 years in a row, but if he doesn't win or get to a Super Bowl, that feels more like a loss than if he only makes one in the next 5 years, but we got there and doesn't win an MVP at all. I would rather take that than Jordan Love being get us to the big dance.
They're not exclusive, because here's the thing, and this is where the MVP Super Bowl thing carried for Aaron Rodgers, is that the more you win, the more your MVPs you win, the more you have, like, all right, now carry your damn team to a Super Bowl. You get one, people are like, Lamar Jackson now is facing that heat. Tauscher brought it up.
Right.
Now Lamar Jackson's won one playoff game. Look at this bum. All these MVPs and only won one playoff game. I wouldn't put all the playoff losses or lack of success on Lamar, but it is going on him. But that really started coming in after multiple MVPs. So I think it kind of layers. So MVP is more of a marker of playing at that level. Yes, if Jordan Love is finishing second, third, fourth, and never wins an MVP, but the team is always in the NFC Championship game and maybe makes a Super Bowl, that's a different way to do it. I'm just trying to find a clear marker, and to me it's easier to win an MVP than it is to go to the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl requires so much more of everyone else around you.
I guess, but you only have to deal with half the league to get to a Super Bowl, as opposed to the MVP is dealing with all the other quarterbacks from
But they're not, again, they are connected, because you're not going to be an MVP candidate unless your team is expected to at least be playing in the NFC Championship game in this case.